My name is Brian Finfrock, and it has been my pleasure to spend the last decade helping Oracle customers produce innovative and visionary digital marketing campaigns. So far today, we've heard from Rob Tarkoff on the idea of mastering customer signals, and we just heard from Shashi Seth and Holly Simmons as they shared a vision for the future of marketing. I want to thank you for joining this session on visualizing your path to marketing excellence for B2C marketing. And if I do my job well, I'll leave you with at least one new tactic or strategy that can help you and your team achieve your vision for the future. So a quick recap of that last session. Shashi noted 3 areas where focus really is needed to succeed. As marketers, we must keep customers engaged and make every customer interaction matter. Digital interactions, those have to happen in real time, and they have to be personalized with relevant data to be valuable. And we must be able to embrace experimentation. We have to be willing to innovate with and for our customers. Now that sounds great, but that's pretty sophisticated stuff, and bringing it all together it's much easier said than done. So where do you start? Well, we've been listening to marketers across a wide variety of industries and various organizational sizes to determine where they're at in this process. And based on the feedback and insight of thousands of our customers, we've identified a framework that is pretty helpful in determining what might be appropriate for you to do next. How can you help your organization grow marketing, be more impactful, be more engaging, be real time? How can you drive loyalty and engage customers in the way that they expect in today's experience economy? Before we get into that framework, I wanted to ask if there was anything in your path preventing you from achieving your goals. So please take a quick moment and answer this poll question. What is standing in your path of doing your best marketing? Is there data missing from your marketing automations preventing you from personalizing your content based on customer interests? We hear from many marketers that cite skills gaps preventing them from producing highly personalized experiences. I've encountered more than a couple of teams this year that have been forced to make cuts or they're experiencing a reduction in budget. Is that what's getting in your way? And we've been told by quite a few customers during their migration to Oracle that migration was to overcome technology limitations. So is your current technology stack holding you back and preventing you from doing what you want to do? Let's go ahead and take a look at the answers. It's not so surprising that resource limitations are really getting in the way. It was very common for me when I was in production to have to choose what was next or help our accounts choose what was doing next. Let's go ahead and get back to this framework now. Based on our research, we believe that the path to B2C marketing excellence begins with broadcast marketing. From there, we often see our customers move on to responsive marketing. The next step is relationship marketing. And the end goal for where you likely need to be, that's lifecycle engagement. Now, before we dig in, I want to emphasize that this isn't one size fits all. There are so many available strategies and tactics for marketers at each stage of maturity, and what works well for one use case isn't necessarily going to work for another. In the decade that I've spent producing digital marketing for responses customers, every brand I supported was actively mastering different maturity stages simultaneously. I plan to take a few moments with each stage to discuss some of the capabilities, some of the benefits, and some of the challenges that marketers are encountering. Now, I started my career in email marketing supporting a large retail brand that was really excellent at broadcast marketing. Every day, our production team took in 3 to 5, sometimes as many as 10 campaign creative assets and audience lists and link tables. And every day we processed that material and launched messages to every customer that might have been interested. Mastering broadcast marketing really is foundational. We believe that it prepares marketers for success with more sophisticated customer-focused initiatives, and it also provides the skills and understanding that are needed to maintain a collection of marketing automations, because that isn't easy to do. Now, we have noticed that successful broadcast marketers are working to manage and reduce costs. Brands that understand this stage, they're finding ways to do things that they were previously doing a little bit smarter. And in many cases, they're finding ways to automate things that were previously manual tasks. Now, broadcast marketers are often forced to mature because deliverability is impacted by over-broadcasting. In the weeks leading up to Black Friday with that major retailer I supported early in my career, we missed some daily revenue goals. Their tactical response to missing a revenue goal was to send another message the next day to make up for it. So we started sending more. And we started showing up on naughty lists. And I can tell you the impact to revenue when you get blacklisted from sending to 20% or more of your audience during peak holiday season, well, that was substantial enough to make that retailer try and progress and become more responsive. And that leads us to responsive marketing. Now, responsive marketers begin to produce more sophisticated digital interactions. Their focus is on improving conversion rates, and they want to optimize the things that they're building for their customers instead of just getting them out. The strategies and tactics available to marketers at this stage are pretty vast. Rome certainly wasn't built in a day. So as we continue, try and imagine what just one of these might do for your customers' experiences. It's very common for responsive marketers to begin coordinating the landing pages on their website with the emails and other messages that they send out to their customers. Automations are created at this stage to respond to explicit customer interactions. An abandoned cart is a great example. We all know that one. The responsive marketer has already built an abandoned cart automation if a customer abandons, and that customer is encouraged to complete their purchase. It's often in this stage that we see marketers focus on data hygiene. They want to clean up the mailing list, speed up segmentation and targeting, improve the personalization a bit. And many marketers will focus on personalizing the send time of messages. We all know how competitive an inbox is. So improving the position of a message within the inbox by targeting the times that customers are more likely to be engaged, that's going to improve open rates. In the year following Blacklist Black Friday, that's what we called it, the retailer put a lot of effort into refining their segmentation. We helped them take advantage of dynamic capabilities and reduced the amount of campaigns that they sent. Instead of sending 5 campaigns to 5 different lists and as many people as we could, we would build a single 5-version campaign with those 5 critical messages, and we targeted at customers who were interested in those 5 things. By the next Black Friday, we were sending out campaigns that had more than 100,000 variations per send. We were only doing it a couple times a week, so it really improved engagement. Now, we have found that marketers take the next step towards maturity to improve the context and timeliness of their marketing. Quick personal story here. I received an email just this week asking me to review a product that was delivered to me in June, and I returned it in July. I gave it 1 star. Like, what else was I supposed to, honest comments and be upfront. But the funny thing is, I had actually ordered a very nice stove with some accessories, and I only returned 1 accessory. Had that brand asked me to review the stove, I would have given them 5 stars. Now, I've built quite a few product review follow-ups for different brands, so I understand the technical error that occurred. I'm not about to abandon over that. I've run into it myself. But disconnected and inconsistent messaging like that can often result in customer churn. Now, we'll talk about how marketers are overcoming this problem in relationship marketing, but I wanted to stop and shine a spotlight on some really excellent marketing. Coles Supermarkets is an Australian brand they've been in business for over 100 years. Their approach used to be focused on quantity rather than the quality of their campaigns. While the approach was working, and in theory nothing was broken, they still decided to take on the challenge of doing more for their customers. They began to decrease the volume of their communications. They improved the personalization. They made things more relevant. They targeted them better. They introduced multivariate testing, and they began to optimize for send time. They improved the personalization with their customers. They tried to learn more and figured out a way to take what they were learning and ingest it into their messages. So meat products, as an example, are only offered to customers who have recently purchased meat. And vegan products, those are only offered to customers who have shown a vegan purchasing behavior. The marketing team at Kohl's put an emphasis on spending time to reflect on what is and what isn't working so they can continually optimize and improve every experience. Progressing from broadcast marketing experts to responsive marketing experts allowed Kohl's to reduce their annual email send by 25 million messages. Their unique open rate went up an average of 28%. Their click-through rate, that increased by 47%. And incremental revenue for email, it was in the millions of dollars. It was a huge successful achievement. Earlier today, Rob Tarkoff pointed out the importance of context and authenticity. So this stage, relationship marketing, is where marketers really begin to make marketing the change agent. The goal here for many marketers is to improve overall customer engagement. This is where we see marketers embracing AI-driven decision-making. The fatigue analysis tool and the Responses AI package that Holly and Shashi mentioned earlier is a great example of this. It's certainly possible to send too many or too few messages to a customer, and different customers have different thresholds. I don't have to tell you that, we all know that. I've supported quite a few marketing teams who have tried to address message send frequency with manual multivariate tests. They're extremely labor-intensive experiments, but they always result in a substantial return on investment. We spent a lot of time figuring out what the engagement segments were, who to hold out, how frequently to send to the different groups, and what to send to them. But it's always rewarding for all of those customers. The customers about to churn stopped churning. The customers who were highly engaged bought more, and the customers who weren't as engaged became more engaged. It was a great success. Today, our customers are able to focus on the strategy of improving send frequency without investing an abundance of labor into the setup and analysis because of that fatigue analysis feature. We have found that marketers at this stage begin to utilize a laser focus on customer preference. Relationship marketers exploit a technique called waterfalling to ensure that every customer receives the most appropriate interaction available to them. We believe that relationship marketers go above and beyond to coordinate across channels, so their customers are interacting how those customers want to, instead of being forced through a journey by a brand. And these brands respond in real time. They don't wait until tomorrow to send you a retargeting message on the search that you did today. They want to answer that question as you have that question and help you find what you're looking for. Simply stated, relationship marketers are concentrating on improving individual relationships at scale. There are many brands who still discover at this stage that customers aren't finding those answers that they're seeking. Customers expect every interaction with a brand to be consistent and relevant, so you have to empower the person who engages with the customer first. And brands progress from relationship to the next stage in order to solve that problem. Now, as Rob Tarkoff has mentioned, the most mature marketers are thinking beyond marketing. They want to ensure the entire customer experience is consistent, contextual, relevant, and valuable to every individual. In our research, we've discovered that brands who approach lifecycle engagement, they're transitioning away from a stack of siloed point solutions and trying to build a central management of their customer data with a comprehensive profile for each customer. These companies are breaking down internal barriers. Marketing, e-commerce, service, loyalty, they're all working together to improve customer interactions. If a customer is engaged with customer service to resolve an active issue, a brand that has concentrated on lifecycle engagement will interrupt any marketing for that individual until it's resolved. The best brands will even ensure follow-up messages in the near future are catered to whatever problem may have occurred so that the customer is satisfied with the resolution. Loyal customers of these mature brands aren't treated to a monthly newsletter that details upcoming offers. They're treated to consistent loyalty status updates. Every time they engage, it's a rewarding experience that gives back and produces value for the customers. The organizations that master lifecycle engagement, they go beyond CX. They're establishing connections between the front office and back office applications so that all the data that's used for every communication is relevant to the moment. The core goal at this stage of the framework is in improving the quality of each relationship to increase customer lifetime value while reducing the churn of dissatisfied customers. And when we look at customer experience through the lens of the customer, they don't see a difference between marketing and customer service. Their interactions with brick and mortar locations are no different than their interactions on your website. We have found that brands who leverage the tactics and strategies at lifecycle engagement, they're leading in their industry. They are growing their customer base and they're improving customer advocacy. And that brings us to our next customer spotlight. Pet Supplies Plus is a neighborhood pet franchise store that's been in business here in Michigan, where I am, for over 30 years. They have been working to improve relationship marketing, responsive marketing, and lifecycle engagement all at the same time. Everything they send is personalized to the appropriate pet species. They concentrate on the life cycle of both the pet and the human owner. They automate as much as they can with frequent data transfers, triggering automated experiences that require minimal labor to maintain. They have taken ownership of managing customer data within responses to simplify segmentation and targeting instead of relying on an IT team to pull lists from some sort of external source with some sort of query code. And they have begun to leverage machine learning to optimize the recommendations within their messages. They've also revamped an internal rewards program. In 3 short months, their newly formed neighborhood rewards program has led to increases in customer loyalty and customer engagement. 52,000 customers have signed up since the launch, and it's resulted in 88,400 eligible products sold. But what really impresses me, they have achieved an 800% increase in revenue per email. Pet Supplies Plus is doing a lot to ensure that every customer interaction matters. As I mentioned earlier in the session, maturity is not one size fits all. It's certainly beneficial to master broadcast marketing before you attempt to coordinate your landing pages on your website with the messages you send in your marketing. It's very common for a brand to optimize the send time of the messages they're sending out before they try and optimize the targeting based on engagement. Brands are almost always going to have more success utilizing AI if they've made the investment in data in advance, if they have the behavioral and preferential segments of their customers well understood and everything's being fed into the AI system, it's going to produce better recommendations. At Oracle, we understand that maturity is unique for every use case. So we continue to invest in developing technology to empower all marketers to optimize their marketing and make every customer interaction matter. Now, before we wrap and move on to the fireside chat with Frontier Airlines, we have another quick poll question. Based on what we've just covered, where is your team focused right now? Are you a broadcast marketer focusing most of your current efforts on finding production efficiencies? Or maybe you're really focused on automating stuff? Have you been spending a lot of time testing campaigns and optimizing the personalization? Maybe you're in relationship marketing and you're starting to see some initial returns on your early investments in AI. Or have you reached the challenges of optimizing for the entire customer lifecycle? Are you building your own customer data lake? Are you one of the very first brands in the world to have a fully operational customer intelligence platform? You know, you can be unsure. We've only spent a few minutes discussing this, so if you're not sure, you can tell us that too. I don't want to hold up too long, so let's go ahead and see what the results of this are. It's kind of interesting to see that so many are in responsive right now, and so many of you are moving past responses. I've been doing this with a lot of advanced marketers for a long time, and seeing so many in that area where you're really trying to optimize is really consistent with what my experiences have been. Now, if you were one of the unsure answers, or even if you're just interested in learning more, we can schedule some time for you and your organization to go through this process in depth and get a better understanding of where you are today and where you may want to go in the future. I want to thank you again for joining me for this session, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to our next guests. First, I'd like to welcome Angela Wells. Angela has nearly 25 years of marketing experience, both B2B and B2C, so she deeply understands the challenges of personalization. She's helped companies sell everything from high tech to credit cards to Cheetos and so much more. Here at Oracle, she leads our CX customer advocacy and marketing teams, so she always has the best customer stories to share. Angela, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'm very happy to join you and our audience here. And I'm happy to say that my reputation of bringing you fascinating customer stories, Brian, will continue. Because I have Terry Squires joining me today, who leads marketing for Frontier Airlines. I think all of you listening will learn from her and her expertise on personalized marketing and helping travelers. So Terry, thanks so much for joining me today. I think that it'll be great to have people hear about the customer experience you offer in personalized marketing. So Terry, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Tyra Squires. I have the pleasure of leading marketing for Frontier Airlines, and that responsibility includes all advertising, e-commerce, sales, loyalty, our co-brand credit card, and sales efforts. So it's an exciting time, especially to be a marketer in the airline industry. Previous to working at Frontier, I worked in the hotel casino industry in Las Vegas, so I've really been squarely kind of in that travel hospitality part of the industry, and it's really fun to see and be a part of that changing landscape.
It is certainly fun and certainly rapid. So listeners, now that you've gotten to know a bit about us, we'd like to know a bit about you. I'm going to post up here 2 side-by-side questions about your travel history and plans. So the first one is, when was the last time you flew on a plane? We've got options here: less than a month ago, 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, or 6 months ago. It's August now. We know a lot of people stopped flying around March, about 5 months ago. And then the second question, when do you next plan to travel by plane? So coming up, is it next month? Is it a couple of months from now? Or maybe even more than 6 months from now? So please put your votes in on both of those. This is also, as we're asking questions of you, a good time to remind you, you can post any questions for us in the Q&A at the bottom, not the chat, but the Q&A. So let's see the answers to this. Perfect. Okay, 3 to 6 months ago, that's about when I probably last flew too. And then, Terry, we see this, when do you next plan to travel by plane? More than half said more than 6 months.
We do lots of checks in on this with our customers to see where they're at, how they're feeling about things. I think Frontier is sort of unique in the marketplace, and maybe I'll touch on that a little bit in the future, but yeah, I'm not surprised by the results. There's definitely a bit less traveling. A lot of that is people are not really traveling for business. We've got, we've learned to adapt to this online world pretty well and being able to communicate in new ways. So I'm not surprised by the results.
Yes, we have. Well, our session today is the first in our series of the CX Virtual Summits. So thinking of CX, or customer experience, can you define that term for Frontier? When does the customer experience start? Does it ever end? And most importantly, for people who haven't traveled on Frontier recently, what would they expect? What should they expect if they were to travel in just the next couple of months, and the really cutting edge ways you're helping keep travelers safe?
Well, let me take a step back and kind of contextualize who Frontier Airlines is and kind of what these changes in the world have meant for us. So Frontier Airlines, we are a low-cost airline, and that means we're dedicated to making flying affordable, extremely affordable, I might add. And in doing that, we are laser focused on ensuring that we are very efficient in the way that we invest money. That is how we are able to keep our fares extremely low. In fact, we have a sale today for $19, so we're talking very extreme, affordability for customers. And what that enables, and why I love what I do, is because it is so powerful to see what travel can do for people in their lives, whether it be a family gets to afford to go on an exciting vacation, a grandmother gets to go visit a newly born grandbaby, or a small business can grow. These are all the reasons why we at Frontier work really hard to be disciplined and smart about how we invest, how we think about marketing. And every decision we make really is in support of how can we ensure that we are driving this inspiration to get people off the couch and moving. And that is a particular challenge in this environment, but we are working our way through that, and definitely have some stories to share from that.
Perfect. And that all makes sense. And the way that you're enabling travel at a time when we all want to see our loved ones, always have, but really want to see them now. My family's in California, so I can relate.
Well, and I think that is one thing the data is very clear on. And I think we can all relate this personally, that being forced to stay kind of in a single location in your home, you don't take for granted your relationships, your family, your loved ones. People keep telling us over and over again, that's what's important to them. They miss, it's not so much the exciting, glamorous vacation that they miss, although we could use that. Really what's at the forefront of people's mind is, going to see, their mom or dad or grandparents, like those connections. People are missing that sense of connectivity. And, that's a privilege that I think I have at working for an airline, that I get to see all these great stories, but now you really see how important they are when you can't do them.
Absolutely. And that's a way that airlines can really connect with their customers. Now, we're so happy and we value working with Frontier on your marketing programs that help you connect with your customers and power your business. So our listeners here want to learn more about how marketing strategies are adapting right now. Can you kind of set the stage for what were your marketing strategies before and some of your programs before some of the craziness of 2020?
Well, I think, a few different things. Like I mentioned, in order to support offering these, incredible value to the customers and keeping our expenses low, I believe the Responsive platform has been really good at enabling us to have a very small team. And when I say small, like 1.5 individuals run a very complicated, not only promotional, but transactional email program that has really enabled us to do some powerful things. So even prior to what's been happening over the last 5 months, we were really focused on building the automation that would empower us to come up with those one-to-one relationships and really talk and speak to people and inform them all the way throughout the journey, not just to sell them, but to help them be aware. Last thing we would want is surprises when they get to the airport. We want to inform and really help shape the customer experience for them, because for some people, the ideal customer experience would be to not really talk to anybody. I know exactly what I need to do. I have all the information. I'm informed, and I can take care of it myself. And that's not what everybody wants. It's what a lot of people want. That's what I like, is being, very self-sufficient. But you have to be able to communicate that. And so email has been really powerful for us to do that.
And that is so relevant right now. Of your travelers aren't able to connect as much directly with your employees and have that part of the experience. So how has technology, how has omni-channel marketing helped you connect and personalize your marketing to your customers? You mentioned email, but how does email play a piece in all of the different ways you can connect right now and through technology?
So as an airline, we are going to the nth degree to, ensure health and safety on our aircraft. I mean, the cleaning procedures, the amount of technology that is already on an aircraft that keeps it safe. It is, you can compare it to an operating room, how clean an airplane air is. And so what we've done is we've really utilized email to help communicate the things that are naturally true about our aircraft, but also all the extra precautions that we've taken. We want to be able to use that as not only, for people who are already planning to fly, to give them comfort, but also to communicate with people who it's been an obstacle to them thinking about flying, to let them know and feel comfortable and safe. And in fact, the CDC just reported that there had, since this started, that they have found 0 transmissions on a Frontier aircraft, and we've carried 4 million passengers. So that's a pretty significant statistic. So the idea is to use email. Look, people aren't flying as much, so we can't rely on experience necessarily like we normally would to help tell our story. So email has become a great way that we can communicate with our customers. And in fact, when we poll our customers to try to find out, how much of if they're really receiving the information, email again and again ranks very far at the top, number 1 in the way that they're getting the information about what we're doing as an airline to keep people safe.
Great. Well, we are so happy that you've been able to use Oracle Responses to make those connections and manage expectations. I know as we were talking about the session of that, your airline was the first to mandate that people wear masks. And so getting that information to people before they got to the airport must have been incredibly valuable, because you would manage their expectations in advance.
Absolutely. And we have, we were the first airline and still the only airline to do temperature checks at the gate. We were the first airline to do a health acknowledgement when you check in to make sure, hey, if you have any symptoms, make sure you wash your hands, like basic stuff. But just having people agree to say, yes, I'm not sick, these are the things, makes them, more accountable and provides comfort. But we want people to know that ahead of time. We don't want that to be a surprise. And email has afforded us that capability better than any other channel.
Okay, great. Well, Well, we, just as you said, giving comfort, we take lots of comfort in our relationship with Frontier, working with your team. As you said, it is a small team, but it is a mighty team. We value that close relationship. Can you share any information for our listeners about what has made that partnership between Frontier and Oracle so strong? How has that been effective for your team, maybe to help them scale to a bigger size than they might be alone?
Well, there's a couple of different things. I mean, the technology itself is very adaptable. We've been able to build on top of it some custom components that have been very powerful. The way that it integrates within other programs in the response ecosystem is very easy to do, and that's what makes it really palatable for such a small team to be able to manage the millions of emails that we send every week. And so I think those have been really important. I think the biggest piece that I see that's been continues to be a big advantage is the visibility in the real-time reporting. We can send an email and we can see how it's doing right away, and to have that immediate feedback is so valuable to what we're doing, because if there's one thing we're learning through this, it's that, you know, you've got to keep trying and testing and pushing new and different things, and everything that you thought you knew may not actually be the right answer. So having a tool that allows you to test and try things constantly, which we are doing, has been a massive advantage. And we've got, you know, I'm really proud of our team. They're super scrappy and smart and strategic in the way that they think about it. And we are testing faster and more intelligently than we ever had. And I don't think we could have done that with, you know, previous marketing platforms that we had.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. And you mentioned some of those results that you get so quickly and the testing you're doing. What are some of the KPIs or those most important metrics that you think marketers listening along should be following as well, in addition to what your team is following?
Well, I think so. You know, I think pre-pandemic, I would suggest, you know, we really looked at sales, conversions, you know, the typical, you know, what did we make off that email? I think that has evolved a lot, because I think that we're looking more now at overall engagement levels, because we realize that though some people aren't thinking about flying right now, are we keeping them engaged for when they are ready to fly? And so we really look at open rate more closely than we have previously, than just the very transactional. Okay, do we get conversions out of that email? So not that we don't look at that still, because at the end of the day, you know, we've got to sell. You know, we need full planes, and email is very important to filling the plane. So I think we've really shifted into kind of a more dual approach, where we really are very sensitive about the brand and what the long-term value we're offering, and communicating that through email. We can really gauge that.
Perfect. Now, some of that personalization and kind of understanding what your travelers need come from a lot of research. And we're going to ask to the listeners following along with us, we're going to serve up another 2 poll questions side by side to understand maybe how impressions of travel have changed. We've got 2 back to back. So prior to 2020, what mattered most to you when flying for personal travel? We've got a few options here, so please pick the one that is most representative. Price, schedule, safety, airline, that includes loyalty program, and location. And then also, we heard from a number of you that maybe you aren't planning to fly right away, but if you were to fly within the next 6 months for personal travel, what would matter most to you? We've got that same set of options. You can just scroll down to pick the one that matters, that is most appropriate for you prior to 2020, and now if you were to fly in the next 6 months. And, you know, maybe even that definition of safety, Terry, maybe that's even changed a bit for people of how they might define it.
It absolutely has.
So let's see the answers on this one. So prior to 2020, price on personal travel was the most important. Maybe your schedule could be a whole lot more flexible. And then I'm seeing the results. Safety now. So how do you make sure, Terry, as you're crafting your marketing programs, that you're highlighting that safety message going forward? You know, make people feel comfortable about getting back on a plane with, you know, so many of the steps that you've taken.
Yeah, no, I think that's a constant challenge. We have been working on that messaging for 5 months now, and optimizing it and improving it and trying to, while a lot of the data is very scientific, you still have to be able to have it in a consumable, believable, bite-sized amount. So we found a lot of different ways to do that. One of a couple of ways we showcase employees versus just executive talking heads that are actually in the field working and onboard these aircraft on a daily basis. We've used that to kind of help foster the message with a different take on it. We've also used not only employees, but our own customers. We've started a travel blog, video blog series where customers are actually flying in, telling us about their experiences. And I think that's been another effective way. So it's sort of like telling the story in different ways, because you have the very clinical, scientific approach that some people want to hear, and then just seeing others experience and what it's like to fly right now. The more emotive piece is also important to share. So it is, we're trying to hit it from many different angles, because as we all know, everybody does not receive information the same and doesn't look at it all the same.
Absolutely. Well, I, for one, am all for the stories. I get creeped out on some of the clinical side. I want to hear the stories, as you said in the opening, of connecting with loved ones. So with that, I've seen a number of questions come in. Please continue to post your questions in the audience. I want to pick a couple from here that I think are really relevant. So what role are MarTech vendors, and I might even take the liberty of expanding that to partners, playing in your world now? Has anything changed, and including what are your asks of these vendors?
Yeah, so I think if anything, we need things faster. I think we're evolving and we're paying attention every day. We are second guessing what we're doing and trying new things and pushing the envelope as far as we can push. And so, we look for partners who can do that. If we dream it up on Monday, we might need it executed on Tuesday, because that's the way we're thinking about it and moving. So we need partners that can respond quickly and help us adapt to what's going on.
Perfect. Adapt at a moment's notice with some of these changes, surely.
Yes.
What about, what advice do you have for other marketing leaders? You touched a bit on maybe everything we knew had changed. So I see a lot of marketers sending messages with like the start of some kind of empathetic message, ... but still buy a car from us.
Yeah.
What should marketing leaders be doing so they don't look like they're capitalizing on what's happening, but that they're really helping customers?
Well, I think part of it is being open, right? You've got to second guess everything that you thought you knew. You got to retest it, because the world is different, and all the metrics that you were living by, okay, well, we know this works for a subject line, retest it and try again. One thing that I think we're starting to discover is that I think people are a little tired of the more sympathetic messaging. They want some good news. And so we're trying to push the boundaries a little bit, even in our message and the way that we're approaching things, to be, although sensitive to the situation, also give people a little bit, to smile about and be cheerful, because, I don't need to be reminded. I don't need a commercial that reminds me how horrible things are. I'm pretty aware of it. So I think people want to hear some good news. So, I would challenge to just keep second guessing and keep pushing, because I think that's where you're gonna find value, and you'll be surprised the way people respond to things will not be exactly as you thought. Just like it was before, it's even more surprising now.
Well, as you said, people want to hear good news, and I thank you for sharing your good news and sharing your marketing strategies with our audience today.